Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to How to Get Hired. I am Bill, the company's expert. This is the weekly live stream where we talk about how to get hired, and it's an interactive Q&A. So if you see my beautiful face, you should see a chat box nearby. Get in the chat. If you're a subscriber to my channel, let me know what's up. Let me know what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with, or just your situation, and I'll react to it and help you out as best I can. The title of today's episode is Do This to Get Hired. This is episode 111 of this. We've been doing this 111 times. Can you believe this? So welcome. If you are looking for a job, if you are wondering about resumes, how to write a resume, how to discover jobs, how to do job interviews, all that kind of stuff, you come to the right place. So let's just kick this off. I guess I got to do a public service announcement first. A shout out to all my YouTube channel members. You guys are awesome. Thanks for the support. And my Patreons and my super thanks donors. And obviously to my participants. You guys are the reason I'm here. So there you go. Thank you very much. And I see that my feed is working again. On Monday, when I was last live streaming, I ran into yet another technical bug with the software I'm using, which is Streamlabs OBS. And the feed was not working. That tells you how many people are here. So I can see there's 18 people here. So thank you very much. Just, I guess, right before we dive into it, Jack is here. Jack says, hey, thanks for the previous advice. Worked amazingly. How's your Wednesday? My Wednesday is awesome, Jack. Thank you for asking, and I hope that you're doing great. Jack says you should set up Super Chat. Yeah, I know. I mean, there's a lot of things I need to do on my YouTube channel, but I don't have a team behind me. It's just me doing this, and I'm technically doing this part-time. So, there's a lot of things that I could do. Jack says, where's the YouTube Super Chat system? I'm not sure. You should see a little option that gives you the option of doing that if you want. Yeah, but anyway, they've come out with all these new, that's the thing about YouTube. They keep changing things. They keep coming out with new features and stuff, and they've changed some of that stuff. Now there's goals and stuff, and it's I haven't gotten into that. I don't know if I will, but I do appreciate Super Chats. I appreciate people here, whether you're sending me anything or not. I appreciate your presence. Okay, let's get into this. Okay, you're probably wondering, if you've read the title of this episode, where I say, do this to get hired, what is it that you have to do? Okay, it's very simple. Now, I've covered this before on this channel, and that is, in job interviews, one of the things that both recruiters and hiring managers are looking for, like a major element of what is appealing and attractive to them in a candidate, is enthusiasm, okay? Now, you and I both know that when you're between jobs and you're going to job interviews, you really don't feel enthusiastic about a lot of things. You probably feel nervous, you feel possibly depressed, you feel on edge, you feel a whole bunch of negative things, but enthusiasm is really not one of them. And you probably hate the process, and that is not made any easier by the fact that a lot of job interviews are not very pleasant to go to. They don't go out of their way to make it super welcoming and show a lot of hospitality some of the time. Now, sometimes they do, everything happens some of the time, but it's a very unpleasant process for a lot of people. So the last thing you probably feel like doing when you get to a job interview is being all smiles and chuckles and having a big smile on your face and really making them feel like you're genuinely happy to be here and you're genuinely excited to work for these people and to learn more about them and to have more to do with them. That's probably a little big of an ask to convey in your body language when you go to a job interview. However, the reality is that that's a major thing that they're looking for, okay? What they're looking for, ideally, is a candidate that really wants this specific job that they're offering, okay? That's a big thing that they're looking for. There's many people that want the job for money. Oh yeah, they want the money, But do they want to do that actual job, to do that work, and to work in that particular organization? Probably not. A lot of the candidates are super excited about this organization specifically, or this role in the organization specifically, right? So this is one of the things they're looking for. And you know that dreaded word when they say fit. I'm sorry, you were just not the right fit, right? We all wonder what the hell that actually means. That is a kiss off that's designed to obscure or obfuscate a lot of different things. And one of the things that it kind of loosely refers to is what I'm talking about, this enthusiasm for the role, okay? So without any further ado, when I say do this to get hired, it's simply to say to them explicitly, I want this job, okay? That's what I'm talking about. Now, if you use those magic words, it really gets you far. Now, there's a few caveats though, okay? It's not just as simple as saying the words. You can't just say them however you want. You can't just say, yeah, I want this job, you know, or you can't convey it in like a desperate way, like, you know, I need money, I'm almost out of money, I need this job. That's not what I'm talking about, okay? You need to convey it in a way that the message they receive is that you're excited about this specific job, working for these specific people, doing this specific work, okay? And it's an inspired thing, not a desperate thing, an inspired thing, okay? That's what this is all about. You want them to believe that you are genuinely enthusiastic and inspired by doing this role. You could get any job, you get other jobs, but you want this one, okay? So that's what you need. That's one thing that will, I would say it's the most important thing you say in a job interview. You know, they ask you a bunch of questions, but this is the one thing that you want to make sure you say before you leave. Okay. Now I've done now 2 videos on this, and I've told this story a couple of times because I did this myself. I got a job years ago. I sat down with a CEO, and I did a job interview with the CEO in a restaurant, and I said this to her face and said, like, listen, I want to tell you something really important, and I want to make sure you're listening. Are you listening? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, I want this job. And then I backed up why I wanted it. Okay. And that's what I recommend that you guys do. And the way to make a long story short, the way I backed it up, this was many years ago, so I don't remember the details, but it was something along the lines of, you know, I have skills in different areas. I have education in different areas. I have experience in different areas. And one great thing about this job specifically is that it requires knowledge and skill and experience in those different areas. So I can bring all of my knowledge and skills to one role. I wasn't expecting that. I thought I'd have to kind of pick and choose. You know, either you get a job in this area, or you get a job in that area. But with this job, you seem to require all 3 or all 4 or whatever it is. So that's why I'm excited about this job. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity. You know, something like that. You can insert whatever backup you want. But saying something like that carries a lot of weight. Okay, so I see the questions building up. So let's go over to the chat here. Okay, so Jack says, well, what do you need? Old Revealed says, hi dear, your content is great, but I must say that your thumbnails need an upgrade. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Yes, sure. Jack says, set it up. Okay. Oh, you mean the super chat thing? Yeah. No. Okay. I'll get around to that at some point. But it's nice to see your enthusiasm. Lucky says, hi Bill, good day. Hope you are doing great. Wanted to know, I had an interview last week, Monday, sent follow-up email and thank you email to the hiring manager. Didn't hear back yet. What to do now? Like, in what sense? Okay, so you, now listen, Lucky, this may sound a bit harsh, but I'm not being harsh. I'm just trying to illustrate the situation for you, okay? So you went down to a job interview, right? Okay, you hopefully did your best, right? And you did the right thing in sending a follow-up thank you note to presumably everyone in the room. So if you were interviewing with one person, you sent the note to that one person. If there were two people there, you sent the note to both of them. Like the way I would do it is I would send an individual thank you note to each of those people. You could like send one and copy both people, but I would send an individual note if you can, right? Okay. Now, after that occurs, after you've done the thank you note, okay, there's nothing else that really you can do. Okay, you've done everything that you can do, everything that's reasonable, right? The ball is now in their court. They're going to make a decision, okay? Now, technically, I suppose you could follow up, but do I recommend that everybody follows up for every job, like, several times? No, I don't. No. The way it works for the vast majority of jobs is that after the candidate has done what you have just done, that's all you can do. That's all that's required of you. Now, they are free to make a decision, okay? Now, obviously, you would like to be picked, right? Everyone wants to be picked, and that's the goal, right? But the reality is that you have no control over what they do. Hopefully, they pick you. If they don't, that's entirely up to them. Now, one of the things that I wanted to go into today actually was, if you don't get picked, the big thing here is that everybody feels rejected. They feel like, oh, I'm no good. People think I have no value, right? And I should feel bad about myself because obviously there's something lacking or deficient about me, that I'm undesirable. And then maybe you even feel unemployable, right? Like these are the things that flash through our minds, right? Okay. But those are illusions. Those are made because we don't know what's going on. So we manufacture a bunch of reasons why that seem to justify the actions that are playing out in front of us. The phone's not ringing, right? What's actually going on is that they're making a decision. A lot of times their decisions are based on completely flawed reasoning. They're not even taken seriously all the time. And what's worse is that sometimes they're even looking for victims. They're looking for people they can exploit in some situations. We see all of this, right? And the reality is that if you didn't get picked for those opportunities, it's actually a blessing in disguise because you'd have been in for a world of pain, okay? Now, I know that beggars can't be choosers. Everyone wants to get employed. If you're unemployed or you're between jobs, I get that. I totally get that. But what's unhelpful is to be looking backwards, to be always looking back and like looking at the phone and sort of trying to manifest it ringing. You know what I mean? Like that is unhelpful. That is unhelpful in terms of there's no productivity in terms of like increasing the likelihood of you getting hired. And it also is harmful to your mental health. Okay, that's when you start to feel depressed. The activity you should do, instead of looking backwards at, interviews you've done or jobs you've applied for or people you've reached out to, instead of looking back, you need to look forward. Always be thinking of, what are some new leads? What are some new jobs I can apply for? What are some new people I could reach out to? What are some new, interviews I can set up, right? Always be looking forward because number one, this is productive. You're increasing the likelihood that you're going to get hired. Number two, it's also good for your mental health. It feels hopeful. It feels like, okay, I've got even more chances of something happening if I now pursue these opportunities. I feel like I'm getting somewhere. Okay? So this is what you've got to focus on, okay? You only have control over yourself. You don't have control over other people. Yes, sure, you can try and persuade people, but there's a limit. There's only so far that can go in this type of process when you're just applying for posted jobs and you're dealing with recruiters. Okay, so what I'd say to you is, if this is a job that you really, really were hoping for, like this is not just any job. This is like the job. It's like a dream job or something. in that case, I would follow up. I would wait, like, say, 1 week, okay, after your thank you note, and I would follow up. And the best way to follow up is not with a DM or an email or any kind of text-based thing. It's with a phone call, okay? Now, if you're super introverted, you've got tons of social anxiety, and you're absolutely petrified of talking to anyone on the phone, I would leave a voicemail. Like, call after hours, leave a voicemail. Let them hear your voice and say something very professional. Like, script it out if you need to, if you're, if this is nerve-wracking for you. And say just, hello, this is John, whatever your name is. The feed is already scrolled up, so I can't see your name anymore. But this is John Doe. We met last week. I came in for an interview for this position. I was just wondering if there was any news on the status of that position. If you guys should need any additional information from me or anything else, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm very much hoping that that we will be in contact in the near future. Thank you very much. Have yourselves a great day. Take care. Something like that, right? Just something very professional, very dignified, very warm, yet professional. And that's all you can do. Follow up once, maybe twice, like there's no harm, but then that's it. Okay? Move forward. You really don't know what's going on the other end of the table. You know what I mean? So don't think about it anymore. Keep moving forward, and that will help you in terms of reality, in terms of productivity. It'll also help you in terms of your mental health. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, now hold on, because I have to go and ban somebody. So I'm going to do that right now. Fun stuff. I love doing that. But hopefully what I said a moment ago makes sense. Okay, let's see if I can do this. I'm really not versed at this kind of thing. There we go. Okay, excellent. Okay, so let's see. What have you got? So that was Lucky. So hopefully that makes sense, Lucky. Jack says, enthusiasm is so hard to get nowadays. It's invaluable. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I guess, and from a certain perspective. Cynthia says, hello, your information has been very helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. That's very kind of you and very gracious of you to give me some feedback like that. That's I'm glad it's helpful. Jack says, this is so true. I picked up image editing and it helps. Okay. Lucky says, in sense of follow-up, thank you note to both person and interview. Yes. Wild Jess says, at what point during the interview should I say that I want specifically this job? I don't want to come on too strong. Listen, Wild Jess, there's two things you're saying here I want to respond to. One is I don't want to come on too strong, okay? Now, listen, if you are rehearsed and you are experienced, you can come on, it's okay to come on a little strong, okay? Obviously there's a sort of sweet spot here. You don't want to do anything or say anything inappropriate or like way too intense, right? But there's no harm in saying, listen, I'm good at this, or I know how to do this, or I am quite skilled or quite experienced at doing this. Like if you would interpret that as coming on too strong, I would ask you to reconsider. That's not coming on too strong. By the same token, saying, I really want this job, saying that to someone's face in a job interview is not inappropriate. It's not, it doesn't break any kind of etiquette or protocol. And it shouldn't make people feel awkward if you have reasonably good communication skills. Okay, now it may take some practice in the beginning. It may require you to sort of, rehearse this just like you would rehearse the answers to job interview questions, right? The way I would recommend people prepare for a job interview is you work first one-on-one by memorizing the answers that you would like to say in response to standard job interview questions. Okay. So, you do that. That's kind of solo work. You practice, like you memorize what the answer should be, and then you practice saying it. You could like mumble it to yourself like a fool when you're in your room or something like that, working at a desk. There'd be several things in there. You'd also memorize maybe contingency answers. So if they ask you something you don't know how to answer, you're completely stumped, what do you say? You'd maybe practice that. And you'd practice answer to behavioral job interview questions, right? So there's several things in there. One of them would be you practice this, right? You say, I just want you to know that in case it is, I want to explicitly say this, I want this job. I want you to know that. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for me. I think it's great how it requires, all of these skills that I have and all these experiences I have, and there's opportunities for where you could take this in the future. I think it's very exciting, and I'm really hoping this works out for me. I'm hoping that you'll choose to hire me on this. You practice the phrasing and rehearse it a few times, and then you're ready to go when you get in the interview. Now, the second thing you asked was, where in the interview can I say this? Now, if you have a pretty loosey-goosey conversational style interview, it shouldn't be that hard. You're talking about stuff and you can just, you're making point after point, right? You're responding to what they're asking, but, then you're also asking questions back, and then they're talking for a bit and you're responding to it. And then you just bring this up, right? That's not very hard. But what if it's like an interrogation? And it really feels like you don't get a chance to speak freely because they're just firing these questions at you and they're not really giving you an opportunity to speak freely. When do you work this in? Well, here's what I would recommend. In job interviews, they invariably ask you different types of questions. Some questions are negativity questions. That's where it's almost like a trap. They say, what's your weakness? Or what's the thing you hated most about your last boss, right? And these are like traps to wriggle out of, right? What are your salary expectations? We need to know. They're ambushes, right? Other questions are like a license for you to sell yourself. And those are the questions where they say, what are your strengths? Why do you want this job? Why do you want to work here? What can you bring to this role? Questions like that, where it's like they're giving you the floor, and now is the moment that you sell yourself. And the way you sell yourself is you say, well, I have these experiences, this education, these skills. I have experience doing this. I also have experience doing this other thing. I also have a passion and an enthusiasm for doing this type of thing, right? So that's the perfect place to insert this. So let's say they asked you some variant of what are your strengths? They say, so what are your strengths? And you say, well, I've got this education, this experience, these skills, right? And I'm enthusiastic about work that involves collaborative efforts between different groups, or whatever your thing is. And you say, and also, I want you to explicitly hear this. I want this job. I think it's great. It's an opportunity for me, blah, blah, blah. Insert justification here. Right? So that's where you would weave it into an interview if it was like an interrogation style interview and they don't give you the floor. They don't say, is there anything you'd like to say? And it's not a conversation. So hopefully that makes sense. That's what I would say to that. I don't like how this thing always jumps on me. I really need to get a better solution. This year, I'm going to upgrade my my computer that I do this on, and hopefully I'll come up with a better software solution for this kind of thing. So that was to Wild Jess. Hopefully that makes sense. NC Worker says, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, NC Worker. You're welcome, Lucky. I'm glad that helped a little bit. Gayani, is that how you say that? I'm terrible at names. Says, hi, Bill. Glad to see you on streaming live. Question, how can I be authentic in the interview to show my personality? I feel like I'm not showing my real hardworking personality. Okay, this is what I would say, Gayan. You can't. It's impossible because they're meeting you for the first time. Now, let me ask you a question. For people that you meet for the very first time, you meet them for like, say, half an hour, and you don't know them. You've never met them before. You don't know who they are, right? Later on, it turns out that they become your best friend, or, you end up like working with them for years or whatever. But think back to when you first met them, that occasion. Did you really get a sense of who they really were on that occasion? Usually not. Most people would say no, because you're getting a first impression of them, right? And first impressions are usually wrong. They're usually based on cosmetic things, right? How someone looks, how someone sounds, like how they dress. If you meet your friend and they're wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt with food stains down the front, you might get one first impression of them. If you saw them at work where they're wearing like a 3-piece suit or something, you would get a different first impression of them. You know what I mean? It's very hard to get like a really accurate view of who the person is through and through, as if you had known them for years and years. It's just impossible. So in a job interview, the goal is not like to give them a real authentic impression of exactly who you are. That I would say that's not even possible. And I would say that these people are not even interested in that. They're making very superficial judgments about you. And you know how some people say like their minds are made up within the first 5 minutes of a job interview, whether you've got promise or not, let's pretend that's true. Like, I don't know if it is or not. It seems like it could be, but let's pretend it's true for a moment. In 5 minutes, are you going to really see their true, authentic self and understand who they are? No, you're just going to judge them based on their clothes and their voice and their posture and a few generalities about what they've said in like the opening greeting, You know what I mean? Like if they look really uncomfortable, that's going to you're going to read a lot into that. So the goal is not to necessarily give a fully authentic cross-section view of who this person is. The goal is, it's like a sales pitch. It's like to give a sort of, idealized version of who you could be with the specific goal that they look closer at you. Because if they don't immediately like what they see, they don't look any closer. They don't invite you back. And they don't care, right? They never call you back, and that's that. If they bring you down to an interview, sometimes the process requires more than one interview. If you make a good first impression, the goal of the first interview is to get them to call you back for the next thing, to make them want to look a bit deeper, right? And then the next time you interact with them, if it's a second job interview, then you go a little bit deeper, right? All we remember from the first interview is that, you seem to have the qualifications and you seem nice. And you didn't say anything inappropriate or give off any red flags that, you've got major personal problems or something. You know what I mean? We didn't detect any obvious red flags with you. You seem nice and you seem qualified, right? So based on that, we want to now look a little bit deeper, right? So that's how they're regarding this, and that's what the process is. So based on that, your goal in the first job interview should be simply to make them want to look deeper, not to give you all the dirt on you, all your food dislikes, all your personality quirks, see every good trait you have, right? That's not what you should be doing. The other thing is that they are not interested in that. They don't necessarily want to get to know you. The only thing they care about in the first encounter is, we're looking for someone with these 5 things. Do you have them? Right? That's all they care. We don't care what great things you can bring to the job or that you feel you can bring to the job. All we care about is, Look, we got 8 people to talk to today. We're trying to pare it down from 8 to 2 or 8 to 3. So the obvious question that we have is like, we're looking for these things. Do you have them, right? Let's start with that. And if you don't, or it's not obvious, we don't want to go any deeper with you. Okay, you see, like, this is the situation. So I wouldn't worry about being authentic in the sense that you're going to give them a truly accurate, realistic view of precisely who you are. That's not priority 1 in the first job interview. What you want is to give them enough of the things they think are important that they want to look deeper and call you back. Does that make any sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Bubblegum says, is it acceptable to still write thank you letters after an interview? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Now, I wouldn't waste your time doing it to every single interview you go to. Or, like, unless you go to one interview a year or something, I would, like, because, like, thank you letters are good when you go to an interview, but following up is something I would say, no, because that's so time consuming. If you have to follow up with every job you apply to, that's a ridiculous amount of work you'd have to do. It's too labor intensive. NC Worker says, what advice is there for people who had taken a job that was a step down but wanted to get back to the level where they were at prior to being let go? I don't think there's any special advice for someone in that situation. If you're going for the job, you still just have to show that you're qualified for it. I don't think they care, like, that you were at that level before. They're not going to give you any special privilege. The same rules apply. Are you qualified for it? Are you enthusiastic about doing it? Are you suited to it? Do we think you're qualified? Do we think you're suited to it? Now, if you come in there with an ego and say, like, well, it should be a foregone conclusion that you hire me because I've been in this role before, so I'm qualified, right? It's like, so I don't feel I need to demonstrate that beyond what I've just said. I've clearly done it, so I'm clearly qualified, so just hire me. Like, if that's what you're trying to do, obviously that's bad, right? You have to regard it like you would any other opportunity, right? And you have to make them see all the things that you would normally want them to see. All the things they happen to be looking for, you have to demonstrate that they're there as much as possible, or at least convince them that they're there. And an attitude or an ego would be considered a red flag. So just be careful that that's not the way you're going to be perceived. Okay? NC Worker, does it look like I have any moderators? No, I am my own moderator. I need to get a t-shirt that says that. Yeah, like I said at the beginning, that this is kind of a homespun thing. I don't have a team. This is just me doing this part-time, actually. So that's why it's a bit rough around the edges. Wow, Jack sent a super chat for $50. Thank you very much, Jack. I really appreciate that. That's a great show of support, and that's awesome to see. I will look into setting up the new kind of super chat system properly. I know they've added a bunch of crap, and I just haven't had time to get into it. But maybe I'll look at that. Thank you very much. Jack, you're talking to like everybody in the chat, so that's why I'm skipping kind of all the things you're saying. Now, if you're addressing me, just make it obvious, say to Bill or something like that, okay? 1/6er says, help me out, man, job market is cooked. Okay, here's what I would say, 1/6er. Here's the deal, okay? There's a couple of things that you need to know, and there's a couple of things you need to do. First of all, I'm going to start at the sort of beginning here. 80% of jobs that exist are hidden. Only 20% of jobs that exist, of all the jobs that exist, only 20% are publicly posted, okay? So if you go on the internet and you do searches for jobs, and you see all the job postings that pop up, okay, what you're seeing, that's approximately 20% of all the jobs that are actually out there, okay? That's the first thing you need to know. The way that most people get jobs is actually not going online, seeing a job posting, and applying to that job with a job application, okay? That's actually not the most common way to get hired. It's the default way for young people and people just sort of that don't really know much about this stuff, okay? The most popular method for people to get hired is some form of networking, okay? Now, there are many, many ways to network, okay? Many ways to network. At the high end, you know, for executive stuff, at the low end for blue collar people, you know, there's all kinds. Even at blue collar people, like networking is still the number one way that you get hired. You know, if you have a former coworker that puts in a good word for you at a company, they don't get you hired, but they get the boss to consider you, look at you objectively, and then you come down there and then they see, oh yeah, you are qualified. They'll pick you, all things being equal, over a complete stranger because someone they work with closely is vouching for you and saying like, look, I'm staking my reputation by saying that this person, this guy, this girl is good. You know, you should check them out, right? Now, if you turn out to be a total jackass or there's something, you know, like a non-starter, it reflects badly on them. So they're staking something. They've got some skin in the game by recommending you, right? And you may know family members that, you know, of yours that maybe they got the job because, you know, someone they know put in a good word for them or something like that. Like this is a thing. But the problem is that when I say networking, most people who don't do networking, they make this terrible assumption. They assume that means that you just have to know people, and that's incorrect. Certainly, there are some types of networking where, you know, you already know many people and they you know, you've been good friends or something in the past, so they like, you know, recommend you. But a lot of types of networking don't depend on you knowing people, okay? Now, you don't have to take my word for any of this. You can go and you can do your own research and you can verify all of this, okay? A very common method of networking is called direct outreach. That's where you forget about looking for jobs online. Forget about that. Think of what companies you'd like to work for or what organizations you'd like to work for. Maybe there's some organizations near you, okay? You know, you may not know anyone at the company, and you probably won't. At least 90% of the time, you won't know anyone at some random company, right? But the idea is that if you have access to the internet, you have the tools to learn all about the company. You have the tools to look inside the company to see the individuals, like who's the person in this job who does this in that company, right? And then you can also reach out to them, right? Now, if you have, you know how you send your resume out, right? It's like this template that you fire out to any job you want to apply for, right? It's like this thing, it's like the standard thing you send them, and that means you're in the game, right? Well, networking and direct outreach is kind of like that too. You have a standard message that you send out to an individual at a company, someone who has the power to hire you, who could, if they wanted to, hire you on the spot, right? You don't send it to someone way down at the bottom that, you know, is powerless. You send it to somebody up towards the top, right? And all you do is you say, listen, I'm here. My name is X. This is what I do. I'm fully qualified at this. I'm really good at doing this. Now, if ever you're looking for someone who can do that, please let me know because I would love to work for you. And that's it, right? Now, the odds are is that most people are not hiring for someone like you right now, but some of them are. It's just like when you apply for jobs. You know, you go to 20 job interviews, chances are you're not going to get, you know, called back for most of them. That's just how it goes, right? That's playing the laws of probability. We get rejected far more than we get accepted, right? So direct outreach works like that too, okay? So anyway, the point is that if you do things like direct outreach, you can access the other 80% of the jobs that are actually out there, okay? Because even though the company hasn't posted a job yet, but you reach out to that company and you go to the right person and you say something pretty benign and professional, right? That's appropriate. You know, they will occasionally respond and say, hey, maybe let's talk, because they actually are looking for someone like you. They haven't posted anything publicly, but they're looking for someone like you, right? So there's all kinds of methods. So learn all you can about all the methods. Don't just do the whole like applying for posted jobs things. There are many other ways of doing it. A lot of times when you do things like direct outreach, there are major advantages. Like another one is showing up in person to apply, right? You know, like that cliche where you have the store with the help wanted sign in the window, right? First of all, that's a hidden job, right? Because that's not, well, I guess technically it's not, but you wouldn't find that job on the internet if they just put a help wanted sign in their window, right? You'd have to walk by the store to see that. And then the way you would apply is you'd walk up to the front counter and you'd have your resume and you say, I'd very much like to apply for this job. Is the manager here? You know, and then either they're not, in which case you say, no problem, here, I'd like to leave my resume, and then you follow up. I'm trying to talk to the manager. Did they get my resume? Right? Or if the manager just comes over, you say, hey, listen, I understand you're looking for somebody. Here's my resume. I'd very much like to apply. And the fact that you're in person carries a lot of weight because they can see exactly who you are. Anyway, I could go on, but do all you can to learn about all this stuff. In the link in the description box below, I've got some links to some videos I've done. There's one called Hidden Job Market. You could start by checking that out if you want. There's another one called How Successful People Get Jobs. That gives you like an overview of how direct outreach works. If you really want to go deeper, well, first of all, I've got a playlist of videos on my channel called Get Hired. These are the videos I've done that have like millions of views and stuff. So check those out about how to answer job interview questions. So if you do go to an interview, you know what to say. And if you really want to go deep, I've got a course with like all my advice from beginning to end. Like I can't say everything here properly, just off the top of my head. So it's everything all in order, all like, with templates and processes and all this kind of stuff. So check that out. There's a link in the description. Okay, interrogation, don't crack. That's awesome. Yeah, that's where they shine the light in your face, right? They say name, and that's when you say, like Horatio St. John Belvedere, and I guess that's more of like a hypnosis kind of thing, isn't it? This thing skipped on me again. Where was I? God. Sorry for the inconvenience. Like I'm talking and all of a sudden the feed goes and then I lose where I am. Oh my God. I have to go back a lot here. Sorry. I guess I'm really falling behind. Okay, here we go. Interrogation, don't crack. Let's see. Wild Jess says, thank you. That was really helpful. Great. Youssef says, what to do with HR pre-employment formalities like letter of employment, as if I can just ring the other HR and they'll send it right away. Well, you should hopefully have government documents. Like, okay, I'm in Canada, so if you're in a different country, there's going to be like a different name of all the forms and stuff. But usually for taxes, when you work somewhere, they send you like a, in Canada, it's called a T4. Like they give you like a sort of official document that says, here's your official notice. You did work here. This is how much money you made. These were your employment dates. This was your reason for leaving, right? So you should have something like that in your possession if you've had a job before. They should have sent it to you. I believe so. But do research, depending on what country you're in, how that works, because you'll be able to show someone that, this is like an official record that proves that I worked there. And if ever someone wanted to verify that, it's got like your employee number and all this kind of stuff on it, so they could easily check with the company and verify that it's accurate, that you did work there, What to do with the like you should have that so you could just show it to them. Isaiah says, what is the dress color for interviews? What is the dress codes? Okay, here's what you do. Do a search on Google, okay, or search engine of your choice. Do an image search, type in the name of the company, and then, like, sometimes you can limit the geographic region of the search to, like, your hometown or your country or something like that. Just do that and see what pops up on the image search, because then you'll get an idea of what these people look like, how they dress. Failing that, at least do like image searches of the industry and the role. And that should give you a general idea, right? Now, failing that, you can always contact the recruiter and say, if they invite you in for an interview, you can say, thank you very much, I'll be there. Out of curiosity, I was thinking of, dressing business casual or, whatever. Is that appropriate? Is that kind of the dress code? Something like that. Okay. So you can always, it's an excuse to talk to the talk to the recruiter if you're looking for that. Okay. Saying, I just want to confirm the dress code is business casual or business formal or, polo, like golf shirt, polo shirt, whatever. Overalls, like whatever it is, right? Justin says, hey, Bill, I have a big interview with Ford coming up soon. So you've driven a Ford lately? Is that what you're trying to tell me? I remember when that was their capture. And then it was built Ford tough, right? Do they still say that? Built Ford tough. And they have like a truck with another truck like on it and they climb up a mountain of boulders. I think that was in the 80s. I can't remember. Okay, coming up soon. Any specific advice? I'm in a unique situation where I own a business and I'm an entrepreneur. Okay, well, my specific advice so far is don't mention your home business. Or if you do, because it's like a major thing you've been doing for the last several years or something, tell them it's over. Okay, it's over. It's over. I'm not. I wound it down. I liquidated it. I'm done. It's water under the bridge. Don't go in there and talk all about how you are an entrepreneur and how you're a business owner and this kind, unless you're at the executive level like that might be an exception. Okay, in which case then that stuff kind of matters more, right? But if you're talking to a recruiter, don't say any of that stuff. And refer to the interview for this job. I do want this job, but I think it holds a unique perspective coming in, being an entrepreneur, job with Ford management leadership position. Love it because Ford's values, core competency, represent. Business represents currently. I'm in a completely different industry. Currently, I don't have experience in the industry. I have okay, so you don't have an industry and experience in the industry. Okay, number one, got to be really careful of saying this stuff. Listen, I agree with you. If you're an entrepreneur, you've started the business and you've started the business successfully, like you've done a business successfully, right? I mean, even just starting a business, even if it fails, to me, that's valuable experience. Most people don't have that. And that gives you unique insight into a lot of strategic business decisions. You know what's important to customers, whereas people who've never done this don't know that stuff. And you understand how things relate and how they're tied together, what adds value and what doesn't, right? So you have unique perspectives on this. So I agree with you. However, in a job interview, in a large enterprise, okay, where you're probably talking to a recruiter, and I'm assuming this is not executive level. This is somewhere below, okay? So you're talking to recruiters, at least in the sort of initial round, okay? If you were to go in there and talk all about your entrepreneurial type stuff, combined with like, oh, I don't have any experience in this industry, that is going to be really tough to make it come out the right way. Because unfortunately, even though working on a business on the side is a very, very good thing, they don't see it like that. Recruiters certainly don't. They see it as a negative. They see it as like, oh, you're the type of employee that you don't like working in big companies. You don't like working for an employer. You'd rather be on your own, doing your own thing. And if I had to guess, playing the odds, you're probably coming to me for a job because your business really failed. Despite what you say, that's probably why you're here. Or else, why would you leave something that was your own creation to come back and be an employee again? It doesn't make sense. So I assume that that's what your story is, despite what you say. So you got to be very careful about how you frame this stuff. Okay. I would talk about how you've had experience combining things and all that. Like if you're talking to a hiring manager, but if you're talking to a recruiter, I would really downplay the fact that you had your own thing, even though you and I both know it's awesome. And I would focus on what they're looking for and speaking to that, not what you think you can bring. I have no doubt that you would be able to bring all kinds of fantastic skills and experience to the role. That's what I'm saying. But these people don't have an effing clue, to be perfectly frank with you, about how that stuff works and what your value is when you've done that kind of activity. So you might say all this stuff and their eyes just glaze over, it goes over their head. All they know is that they weren't looking for that specifically. So it doesn't do any good saying it. So treat it like any other job interview. Find out what's important to them and cater to them, right? If they bring you back for multiple interviews, like second or third interview, then you can maybe get into like what you can bring, and go really deep into that. But just be careful bringing all that stuff up in a first interview. So there you go. Hopefully that makes sense. Jack, again, with the super chat. Thank you, my friend. Says, I think I caught that ban. Sorry about the emojis. But no. That's not what I did. No, it's just when people are here advertising. They open their advertisement with kind of an insult. They say, it looks like your thumbnails are not very good. You should hire me to do them better. It's like, really? Does that work? And when it's the same message repeated over and over again in the chat, it's like, no. Sorry. I got enough trouble trying to read this without that kind of stuff popping up. So no, you're absolutely not banned. Absolutely not. Justin says it would be a fantastic fit and smooth transition. Yeah, I have no doubt. I have absolutely no doubt. But the thing is, it's hard to convey these kinds of ideas to people that have never been entrepreneurs themselves, and they don't know anything. Like if it's a recruiter, they won't know anything about the subject matter of the position or about what you did. Like they don't understand what the words mean when you explain it. They have no frame of reference. They studied labor laws at school briefly, and now they're working as a recruiter. They don't know nothing about management or operations or whatever it is that you do, or marketing. That's the challenge. Mickey9 says, hello, Bill. I hope you have been doing well. I'm glad to see you live. Well, welcome back, Mickey9. I remember you very, very well. Yusuf says, exactly. I hate when I have to follow up some application or mail, etc. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier there, Yusuf. Okay, once again, this thing jumped on me again. I see super chats now. Yes, thank you, Jack. You're welcome, NC Worker. I'm glad that was helpful. People saying some nice things. NC Worker, I asked because you would make some of us moderators. However, I understand you. Yeah, see, once again, I don't even understand that. I haven't looked into that. I know you can assign people as moderators, but I don't know what that entails. I don't know what that gives you access to. Just, and the nature of my channel is that, people come and look at my stuff when they're looking for a job. And that usually means that it's transient. Once people get hired, they move on and they don't come back to see my videos, which is perfectly understandable. So that's also why I'm kind of not tuned into that. Jack says, I'd love to mod, up to you. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, Jack. I have a live stream following this one. Okay, it starts in about an hour. Okay, come back then, and maybe we'll experiment. We'll see if I can set that up. So come back and remind me, like say the moderator thing, and I'll see. I just have to look up like how to do that. Okay. NC worker, I would love to be a mod. Okay. Usually I don't need them. I don't really get like inundated with all kinds of traffic in the live streams. I mean, it's flattering when it happens, but I don't see too much of that normally. Hey, we got another super chat. Now, can I click? No, I can't click on that, can I? I can't even see your full name. It says Leon, and then it gets cut off. It says, I'm a Kenyan, want to work remote for a US company. Okay. Now, listen, unfortunately, like my area of expertise is not immigration, okay? So I know there are some people that specialize in that, okay? But what I would say for stuff like that is the big thing, generally speaking, is going to be the language barrier, right? So if you're learning a new language or you're working on an accent, and how you speak and having it being fluent and being comprehensible and all this, that's going to be like a major point. So, I don't know if it's not like super PC to say this or anything, but work on eliminating an accent and being able to speak and comprehend as fluently as possible. That will have a direct impact on the willingness of companies to hire you. Okay, like foreign companies to hire you. So wherever you're going, whenever you've got a home country and then you have a host country. The host country is where you're going to, right? So for the host country, for the employers there to want to hire you there, if you can speak their language as fluently and as naturally as possible, that will be a major thing that will affect whether they hire you or not. In my experience, I'm not an expert on that stuff. I have worked with international employees before. In fact, when I was a project manager for a company, I was like the project leader. I was the projects guy. I did like every miscellaneous thing in the company. You had like a marketing person, you had an operations person, you had people that ran a couple of special divisions, and then you had like a CFO, and then you had me. And when I was in that role, it's like one of the things I had to do is I had to set up a system. It was like a qualifications registry where people were coming from all over the world. We were hiring people that had recently arrived from other countries, and they would have their technical qualifications, and it would be in some language I didn't understand, and it would be a credential of which I didn't know exactly what the value was or what it meant, like how good it was, and if it was more or less equivalent to what we had in my home country, which is Canada. So we had to sort of get like a system together, and I helped with that, and I had to run it. But beyond that, I'm not really an expert in this. So, you know what I mean? Learn all you can about what they're looking for, and then you have to give them what they're looking for. That's kind of how it works. If you learn how to do an informational interview, that can be invaluable. Okay? You can talk to people who have done this, who have gone from your country to the US or wherever you're wanting to go, and you can ask them about their experiences, how they found it, what they would recommend you do and why, right? Then you can also do informational interviews with people that would hire you at like a US company, if that's where you're wanting to go, and just pick their brain about like, what are their experiences been with hiring people from Kenya or, wherever, and, if they have any recommendations or what you can glean from that. It can also directly lead to opportunities too. And then I think the other component is all the visa stuff, right? So you need to talk to somebody who knows that stuff really well. But unfortunately, that's not me. I'm not an immigration expert. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have any other questions. Jack says, your advice got me hired almost immediately. An IRL friend told me about you. Good stuff. Well, that's great to hear, Jack. And once again, thank you for the super chat. This is like another super chat. So that's great. This thing keeps jumping again. Roxanne says, great point. It's going to take a long time for me to get to speed here. Okay, I'm just going to cover your stuff first, Jack, because you sent in super chat. So I'm just going to do those, get those out of the way. Another super chat. Jack says, this guy I see pointing at the thumbnail and smiling, all absolute professional, a boss you actually want to work for. Didn't say that. Last boss was great. Awesome. And another one. Geez. For 48, you have a successful personal operation. You have drive next. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the problem. You see, a lot of people, when you go to say a job interview or you're talking to a hiring manager, whether this is a networking thing or it's in a job interview, the problem is that what a lot of us would like to do is we'd like to sit the person down and tell them, this is what makes us so awesome. This is what we can bring to the role. This is what, you may not have thought about this before, but this is what we can do. The problem is that that's not usually the way it works. Usually, certainly in job interviews, they have already made up their mind what they're looking for. They say, I'm interested in this. And outside of those things, I don't want to discuss it with you. You know what I mean? I need someone who is fully qualified in this. I need someone who understands, interpersonal conflict situations and knows how to navigate them and knows how to resolve them. I need someone who's got skills in this area. They can drive forklift. They can repair equipment. They can fill out work orders. They understand how a warehouse works. And I'm looking for someone who's got experience managing people. They've been a supervisor. They've had to deal with awkward employees. They've had to deal with great employees. They understand how to motivate people. That's what I'm looking for, right? So all I want to know in this job interview is, as a candidate, do you have that, right? Now, I understand you want to start talking to me about how you can bring experience from other industries in here, but I don't care about that. Like, all I care about is these 5 things. And I'm talking to 8 candidates today, and I'm vetting all of them for those 5 things, right? So this is the problem. If you go down there and you start trying to, pick the topic of conversation and say, I'm going to talk to you about, my skills in, diplomacy or something, or something that doesn't relate to the 5 things. I have, a strong background in customer service, or something like that. And it's they don't want to hear about that. Even if you could be the most amazing employee they ever had, they're not interested in discussing that because that's not on their agenda. So, job interviews are very much about it's a sales pitch. They're looking for 5 things. Do you have them? That's the only thing that they're really tuned into, right? Sometimes they'll just ask you the questions directly. Other times, they like to play games. They like to sort of say things indirectly and just hope you'll mention it, right? That's why it's very important to be familiar with the job posting, where on the job posting, they probably mentioned those 5 things. They said, we're looking for someone with this, and this. So be prepared to go down there and talk all about it. You sent in an application saying you had these 5 things. Based on the strength of that application, they brought you in for an interview. So saying that stuff is good, right? It's when you go off script and start talking about a whole bunch of other things at the interview, that's a lot of times when they don't call you back, right? The material that was on your resume and your application is safe. You already sent it in. They looked at it. They did not eliminate you. Rather, they brought you down for an interview, right? So that stuff is good. Once again, thanks, Jack. That's incredible. Okay, now I'm going to go back and look at some of the other comments here. Jack says, hate networking. Yeah, a lot of people hate networking if you're an introvert. Usually it's based, a lot of time, in my experience, I've seen that for a lot of people, it's based on you see, they've never done it, so they don't know what it is. They're just imagining what it is, and they're assuming it's certain things, and that's what they hate. But their assumptions are all wrong. The other thing is that networking is like it's an umbrella for like many different types of activity. Like, for example, one form of networking is going down to an industry event, like a wine and cheese party, or something like that, and like rubbing elbows with people and schmoozing and striking up conversations with people. That's one form of networking. Another form of networking is sitting at home with your laptop or your phone or your device or whatever, and going on LinkedIn and just sending messages to people you don't know, right? That's like another form of networking. Or doing a post in a group in LinkedIn. Like, technically that's networking, right? But those are completely different types of activity, right? So there's many things in this umbrella called networking. And the great thing is that based on your personality, I would say, starting off, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you would choose to do different types of activities. Extroverts would like to go to more physical sort of events. They'd like to do more of that, where you're face to face with people. That's how they do it. And that's fine. Introverts, you maybe would want to do more of the social networking type of networking, where you just play on your phone, basically. But introverts can maybe like be okay at something like a job fair. You go down to a physical event, you print out a few copies of your resumes or your business card or whatever, and just going up to booths and saying, hey, I see that you're hiring for this. How does that work? Or what's the process, or what's the job? Like, that's not rocket science. And a lot of introverts are perfectly capable of doing that, and they don't mind it. I think it's because there's somebody kind of indirectly showing you what the process is. Come to this event, bring your resume, and then go up to a booth and look at what they have and ask the person questions that's in the booth, So it's that, it's not that they can't do the social interaction, it's that they freak out because nobody is telling them what the process is, That's a big reason why a lot of introverts don't do the direct outreach. It's because nobody's telling them to do that. Nobody's saying, okay, step 1, you need to do this. Step 2, you then need to do that, right? You're left on your own to figure out that you even need to do this and how you would go about doing it, right? That's what I've observed. That's why a lot of people are kind of fearful of this, But my point is that you can make it your own. Okay, so if you choose to go down that path, you can do it your way. That's the great thing about it. Yusuf says, this outreach method works like a charm, by the way. I have 2 interviews this Friday because I reached people directly and did not apply anywhere. There you go. There's a lot of evidence, of this, if you look. The thing is, a lot of recruiters don't talk about this because they're not part of this process. You're not talking to recruiters. You're going around the recruiters to talk to the managers, the ones that actually hire you. I would go a step further and say, absolutely, just go to executives, either executives or people like that are your direct boss, but that's going to vary by industry. I would say go to executives almost universally, and then possibly people lower down, depending on if that works in your industry. Some industries that just doesn't work. Those people are busy, and it's not part of their job to take queries from the public, Whereas executives, it is their job to do that. And they're always looking for like enthusiastic people with initiative that want to work for them, Yusuf says, don't wait opportunities come to you, because it will not. Just create opportunities by reaching more people. Trust me, you will get results almost immediately. Yeah, well, sometimes you do, definitely. Sometimes you don't necessarily, depending on what you're doing, but it's still a very promising method. And there's no gatekeepers, that's the thing. You can go right to the person that makes the decision, informally. It's almost like knocking on the door of a teacher at school. You go to their office, like a professor or something, you go to their office, you knock on the door, you say, is this a good time? And they say, yeah, like, I'm here. And you say, okay, well, listen, if ever you're looking for someone to do this, if ever you're looking, no pressure, I can do that. I'm damn good at it. So give me a call if ever you're looking for that. That's all. Have yourself a great day. Something like that. Now, most people aren't, but if they happen to be looking for someone like you right now, this is perfect. It's a perfect link up, and they will be very interested in talking to you. And there's no recruiters, there's no process, there's no formality. It's like, hey, we might have a job, like, what's your deal? And you say, well, this is my deal. Anyway, Galvalan says, turns out I am misguided to simply rely on job postings only. You're not misguided. You're not misguided. A lot of people just do that, but there are more opportunities out there, and it's up to you if you choose to learn how to pursue those, right? I know a lot of people that absolutely refuse to do any kind of networking. Like, they think that the hidden job market is some kind of conspiracy theory or whatever, if it's not posted, then the job doesn't exist, or if it's not posted, the job shouldn't exist. I know a lot of people that I've interacted with in real life and on this YouTube channel that hold that opinion. It's like, that's fine. Hey, each to their own. You're not a bad person for it, but if you're open to it, it's almost like applying for jobs. Like, you need to know there's a bit of a protocol, of how to do things, like what you should put in a resume and what you should put in a job application. Just like there's rules for that kind of stuff that tend to increase the likelihood you'll get further. Same thing with networking. If you send a message to a hiring manager, depending on what you send, it may not be very good, right? It could be riddled with spelling errors. It could be very presumptuous. Like, for example, earlier in this stream, somebody was using the chat to sort of advertise for their services. I guess to me, they wanted me to hire them to for them to make thumbnails for my videos or something. And I made a point of this earlier. They led by saying something negative. They said, well, your thumbnails are not very good, and then basically said, well, you should hire me so that they're better. And it's like, well, does that work? Does that approach work? I kind of take exception to the fact that you're saying my thumbnails are not very good. I think they're fine. And I mean, I'm getting a decent amount of views. So, they can't be horrible. But you know what I mean? So if you send a message to a hiring manager, some, the director of operations for some company or whatever, if you work in the marketing department, you send a message to the director of marketing, and you say, your company really doesn't do a very good job of marketing, but don't worry, because I can help fix it. So hire me. Here's my phone number. I'll be available tomorrow, or between this time and this time, that would be an example of what not to do. That probably won't get you very far, right? So it depends on what message you send, right? So learn about what message you send, and then when they respond to it, okay, learn who to send it to, and then when they respond to it, then what do you say? You know what I mean? If they bring you in if they want to meet with you, how do you do that? What do you talk about? That kind of stuff. So, you can find the information out there. There's many different ways of doing it. I put all my sort of version of that into that course, by the way. So if you're interested in learning this from me, there's a link in the description to that course, and I walk you through all that. Now, I'm walking you through a couple of methods. One is how to apply for the posted jobs, and one is how to apply for hidden jobs using, I think it's 2 methods that I covered in my course. So, that's what you get. Now, there's many, many different things you can do. I think I briefly cover others, but I mainly go deeper on 2 methods to apply for hidden jobs using direct outreach. And they're the 2. Basically, I'm showing you what I did to create my consulting business. That's how I did. I met with a whole bunch of people. Almost all of them were CEOs of companies that I didn't know before, but I got informational interviews, and I did that way, and I did direct outreach. So I share all that in that course. So you're not misguided, Galvalan. You're doing fine. And you've actually got quite an open mind to be here and be receptive to it. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of people, as I said, they think it's some kind of weird conspiracy theory. But do your own research. Get your information from a variety of different, independent sources, and you'll see. Hello to Deuce Primum. Hello. Amaze says, hi Bill, how long after highly engaging last round interview with the hiring manager and other team members can I reach out to a recruiter for an update? There's no set rule. I'd say a week is kind of reasonable. You could do it, I suppose, 3 days later. I wouldn't contact them the very next day, for an update. You know what I mean? I think 3 days is probably the minimum amount of time. Probably more likely a week would be reasonable. Right? I wouldn't wait a month. That would be too long. Following up after a month, that suggests that it's really not very high priority for you. So somewhere in there. We're talking about cars. Justin says, no, I'm not talking to recruiters. This is a final round interview with the hiring managers. Okay. Leo says, I lost my job a week ago. I'm sorry to hear that, Leo. And I have an interview tomorrow. Your videos have been a blessing to get back into the market. Well, that's good. Hopefully they're helping. I wish you the best of luck, Leo. Mickey9 says, thank you, Bill. I am so happy you said you remember me well. Yeah, I remember because you were on some of my chats for a period there for quite a lot. So I do remember you. Thanks to your Get Hired videos and live streams, I got a new job about a year ago and I've been doing well. Great. That's great to hear, Mickey9. And I'm glad that you're prospering. Another thank you to Jack for all the super chats. That's awesome. Thank you, Jack. Ellie says, thank you, Jack. Wow. Isaiah says, how to answer what are your weaknesses? Oh, here we go. Okay. I did a video. I've got 2 videos, I think, on what are your weaknesses, how to answer that question. I got a short video and I got a long video. The long video, it talks about every possible answer, where they say what are your weaknesses? And you say chocolate, right? Kryptonite, or, I just care too much, or I work too hard, or I'm just too awesome. It's intimidating for everybody else. All these sort of silly kiss off answers that, if you're trying to get hired at McDonald's or something, I'm sure those would work, but anything above, recruiters, some recruiters might be stupid, but I don't think many are that stupid. Saying a strength is a weakness, it's heard it, Generally, the problem is people don't ask the question for you to deflect it, right? So you have to give them a seemingly legitimate, valid answer. But the trick is that you don't actually reveal any real weaknesses, because the recruiters, they love to advise people and say just be honest. Just say your biggest weakness and then tell us how you're working on it, And that way we know that you recognize that you have weaknesses and you are working on it and you are humble enough to realize you need to work on it. BS through and through. It's self-serving propaganda. Because what usually happens is they ask you, what's your greatest weakness? And you tell them. Excuse me. And then your big reward is they eliminate you for having that weakness. Because the other candidates didn't give a weakness when they were asked. You did, so you lose, right? That's practically how that stuff works out. So to make a long story short, here's what I recommend. Okay? Think of a trade-off. Think of something good that has a trade-off, right? For example, a very common one is to say like, I do very good quality work, right? I don't cut corners. But what would be the trade-off? The trade-off, like a negative trade-off of that? Well, the problem is I'm not the fastest worker, right? Other people, they cut corners, they do it really fast, but it's not very good. They make a lot of mistakes. I don't do that. I do high quality work, but the trade-off is that I'm not the fastest worker, right? So like speed versus quality, they kind of go like this. You could either have very, very fast, you could have very, very good quality, but you usually don't get both together, right? What's another one? You're very easy to get along with. Everybody loves you, but when it comes to, sometimes your weakness can be you don't give honest feedback when it's negative, right? You ingratiate, you say something that's nice, but it's not honest, right? So honesty versus preserving great personal relationships, something like that, right? Like if you thought about this for a moment, you could probably think of several of these, right? So when they ask you, what's your weakness or what's your greatest weakness? Give them an understandable side effect of something that you do that's awesome, okay? You could say, well, I'm not the fastest worker. Other people do complete their work faster than me. However, I produce like really good quality work. So the way I would phrase it is I would lead with the good thing. You'd say like, well, I produce work to a very, very high standard. And then the classic sort of line that I give is, but unfortunately not everybody shares that standard. So other people can sometimes complete work faster than me because they're cutting corners and doing other things. So I'm not the fastest worker, but I do the best quality work of all the workers in my work group, something like that, right? So you're giving like a strength and a weakness. You're giving an understandable side effect of something you do that's awesome, right? I do very good quality work, but that unfortunately means I'm not the first one done. That's maybe how you would phrase it if you could put a bit of thought into this instead of what I'm doing right now, which is just blabbing off the top of my head. And then if you really want to knock it out of the park and have an amazing answer, then you say something, you tack something on at the end. You say, this is what I do to make sure that weakness is never a problem. Okay, so for example, I'm not the fastest worker, but what I found is that if I talk to the boss, when the boss assigns me a job, at that moment, I say to the boss, well, okay, here's my estimate of when I'm going to be able to finish. Is that okay? And 95% of the time, the boss will say, sure. So even though I take a little bit of extra time to do it, I'm never late, and it never causes any kind of disruption on the job. Something like that. So you give two strengths, two things you do that are awesome, and a legitimate weakness, but they can't fault you on the weakness because it's simply a side effect of something you do that's amazing, right? So you use the question, you wriggled out of the trap, you use the question to say two awesome things about you, right? And not give a real weakness that they can use it to eliminate you. That's how you answer that question. There's a lot more to it, but that's kind of the short version. I have to wind this down in a few minutes, but I'm going to try and get through all the questions here. One Sixer says, it's crazy because sometimes the only way you can get the job you want is by applying to the job outside the city. Okay, yeah. Is that part of a conversation here already? Yeah, you can look. You see, the great thing about doing direct outreach, by the way, is that you can do this on LinkedIn, and you can, when you're looking for targets to reach out to, you can specify the geographic region. So if you're in a city, you could say the city, or you could say the city and surrounding area sometimes, right? So it opens it up. I think people are talking about something specific here, Airbnb and stuff like that. Amaze says, another trap interview question is, what did you dislike most about any role you've ever had? It's one of those tricky behavioral interview questions. Well, actually, that's not a behavioral interview question. It's asking, Like a behavioral interview question, you answer with a story, right? So you don't necessarily have to give a story here. You can just say, I dislike my boss or something, like technically. Now, here's how you would answer that, okay? Never, ever give anything negative in a job interview. So even when they say, what did you dislike most about your last boss, right? You know, they're trying to bait you. They're trying to ambush you. And the answer is always never to play into that. You say, well, you know, I don't really, there wasn't really anything that I disliked about my last boss. Actually, we were friends, to be honest with you. You know, I suppose if there was something that I could maybe improve, I would say, you know, there should have been more. It would have been nice if there were more opportunities to move up internally, something like that. But we were a small operation, you know, so what can you do? You know, something like that. Like you're saying something, but you're wriggling out of the trap. They're trying to get you to badmouth a person or a company or, you know, a group, and you're not going to fall for it. You know, don't ever give negative stuff in a job interview, even when they directly ask you for it. You say, well, they're kind of, there's nothing that comes to mind that I disliked about them. You know, we got along actually pretty well. I mean, as evidenced by the fact that I stayed there for 2 years, you know, or something like that. And then you could, once again, just like the weakness question, you could say something totally benign, totally understandable. Like, well, we were a small company, so there wasn't really opportunities to move into different roles because we didn't have that many roles, you know, something like that. Like, it's totally understandable. You know, so that's what I would say to that question. Anyway, I have to wind this up. We've reached the end of the chat. There are 57 people here. Thank you for joining me today. If you joined recently to get an answer to the title of this live stream, which was do this to get hired, I answered that in the first 2 minutes or something. I addressed that at the beginning. So if you're looking for that, you can always sort of rewind and go back to the beginning. My live streams are up. Like, even when they're over, they stay up. So you can always go and watch them again or resume watching them if you feel so inclined. We had a lot of great participation today. Thank you certainly to Jack, who sent several super chats. That's amazing. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. And to Leonard, I apologize. I can't see your full name. And when I click on it, it doesn't it doesn't show the full thing like maximized. So, but thank you very much. We had some great participation. I will be back on this channel with another live stream in half an hour. We're going to do an episode of Honest HR Nitrous. So stick around for that. That's where we talk about the reality of careers and job search. In the meantime, check out some of my courses. If you want to go deeper with me into different areas, check out this course. If you're feeling lost, if you don't know what to do, you don't know what the right things are to do to get hired, or where to look, or just the general approach, what things can be done, check out my Get Hired course. There's a link to it in the description box under this live stream. If you're wanting to learn business for any reason, like to do better in your job and to open doors for you to get promoted and things like that, check out that course, link below. And the other one that's a bit more applicable to this kind of stuff is if you're looking to move up and get promoted into upper management, check out this course right here, Write Like a Professional, because that's where we talk about more advanced communication skills. And that's something you definitely have to tack on to be sort of upwardly mobile, if you like that expression, to get promoted up into middle management and upper management. So if that's something that you're looking to do, or just to have easier relationships with people at work, they tend to like you more, you tend to get along better, you can deliver bad news and not have them hate you, things like that. Check out that course. Okay, I will be back in half an hour. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. Hopefully you got something out of this. I will see you very soon. Take care.